Alright then, here we are. Welcome everyone and a very good evening to WOR T4. This is round 4. We're headed to Vegas, baby. We are back once again. We've seen a lot of action Vegas over, well, in the last couple of weeks. We've had, of course, the race there, which was super exciting a couple weeks ago. And we're going to try and do that all over again here at WOR. We're now already getting some notes from the players that they are ready to ready up, so I immediately have to jump to all of the information before we get started. First off, we have a couple of substitute drivers coming in tonight. So for Alfa Romeo, we see once again that Polkes is going to join us. The man who's joined us so far for only one race, but did pick up a race win back in round 2, which was Great Britain. Of course, if you've seen the calendar, you've known that we went to Bahrain first 3 weeks ago, then 2 weeks ago was Silverstone, last week was Monaco, which wasn't all that bad, but some chaos ensued at the end. And today we have Vegas, but we're staying here in the States next week as well, because we're going to the Circuit of the Americas then, and then the rest of the calendar looks like this. We'll first go on for round 6 Singapore, then it's Mexico. We'll go to the lovely track in Portimao, Portugal, round 8. Round 9 is some action at Spa-Francorchamps before we move on to the Red Bull Ring round 10. And then finally, we have our season finale in China, Shanghai International Circuit. But first up tonight, it is Vegas. So, if you look at the drivers, I already mentioned Polkes is being substituted in. Matt Guest will also not be driving. He'll be replaced with Trakic. I hope I say that right. Trakis. I think Trakis sounds about right. We'll name him Trakis. And for Red Bull, I believe Seb is being switched out, and that would be for Roman Dishme, I believe. So those are the drivers that are coming in. In the meantime, I hear the drivers speak about readying up, and when we speak of that, it looks like we are already in the game. So let's quickly go over to our in-game view, and let's get qualifying underway. So first, some telemetry, so we can see what is going on. We see a couple of drivers on the track. Normally, for this 18-minute qualifying session, we'll see 3 laps that the drivers will be doing. Slipstreaming particularly powerful here, but the drivers have to be a bit careful with that as to not break any rules. As you can see, we have a full grid. The way Grosjean is also here. So, yeah, as I mentioned, Trakis, he is new in the Alpine, substitute driver for tonight. Roman Dishme and Polkes, so 3 substitute drivers, but the substitute drivers really making a name for themselves out here this season so far, with a race win and a couple of pole positions. Nonetheless, though, the man to beat at the moment, the man on top of the standings, he's not here, is he? It's no longer... Is it Maciej Latinsky? I want to check, but to check I need to alt-tab, which I can't do at the moment. So let me just quickly grab up my phone and let's check out these standings that we have for WR, because we have this in a lovely Google Sheet, which is very easy to access. Not so easy to access if you cannot alt-tab, so perhaps I should think about putting this game in a different setting. But let's first move on to the driver on top of the road, and that is Trakis, so we can see him perform the first lap. As in the meantime, I am going through these standings for you. No, it was our Alfa Romeo driver. He's not here tonight, so being substituted out for Polkes. So our championship leader is not here tonight. I was already thinking, I don't see him in the list, and that's true. Mikolaj Nowicki is leading the championship. But that makes sense because he's a reserve driver. He won 1 race. No, 3rd place Bahrain, 8 points in Silverstone, and a 2nd place last time out of Monaco. 41 points for Mikolaj Nowicki, 2nd as standing. Silly Sly Guy, 37 points shared with Luke Walstow, who picked up a 3rd place last time out in Monaco. 4 points behind that, 33 points, we find Akim Lai for Red Bull. He's here tonight. And then in 5th, we find Daniel Gottschalk for Mercedes. So both of the Mercedes drivers in our top 5. So we're now on board where Trakis. He is making his way around the first sector. Let's see what the sector times are that we are eyeing for. As he's going to put that in for a 43.7, so that will be the time to look for. But look at that, the track's very busy. All drivers currently, all 20 drivers on the track. And it looks like trackers will have to watch out for that a little bit as he comes down the Las Vegas Strip. So after turn 12, your Las Vegas Strip, as you head all the way down. And there we see some more drivers. He's not going for the slipstream. They're trying not to take any unnecessary risks, so to speak. But look at that top speed, 353 kilometers an hour before heading into the heartbreaking zone. Almost outbreaks himself with a Ferrari in front of him. That's a little bit annoying, but the Ferrari's going to start his fast lap, which means that Trackers does not have to worry about that. Can use a little bit of slipstream as he sets the first time for tonight, and that is going to be a 131.5. The time to beat here for the time being, as the second lap, no, it's Silly Sly Guy who goes quite a bit quicker, a 130.8. So already diving into the 130s, we have yellow in sector 1, but that's because some drivers are driving a bit more slowly, as Carson puts up a 132.8. In the meantime, we also have to look at Roman Dijme. He mentioned that he has not had any practice here. So maybe the yellow flag was because of him, because he seems to have aborted his lap. Not sure if that was because someone was in the way or because a mistake was made. Now, let's move down the line and see. I think Golgi was just up on a fat while he's in the second sector. It was his teammate Maciej Lutinsky who set up a lap. As Akim Lino comes out in second. Alex Schreinemakers 131.2 as well. But so far, Silly Sly Guy leading the pack by 2/10 as Daniel puts that Mercedes in second. Mercedes 1-2 for the moment. German Polyakov in P5 as Goji makes his way around the final few corners. And coming up to Top Golf, your lovely name for the last corner here at Vegas. Turn number 17 as he comes through in a 131.4. So that is P8 for Goji. With the other drivers now coming through, let's go out to Frank Turner and see what he can do as he enters the final few corners. Just made his way down the Vegas Strip on towards Top Golf once more. And his first flyer is going to be probably in the 131s if I look at it. And it will be a 131.850. But currently no better than a P16. So he's hoping to do a little bit better in his second run. Roman Dijme had aborted his lap. And Patrick Dakmeyer seems to be on for a lap right now. So let's see what he can do. He is just behind his teammate. But his teammate will have to bounce. And yeah, by the looks of it, judging by the sector times, I think he has already aborted. Also does not have enough ERS to go for yet another lap. So it looks like those drivers have aborted their laps. The drivers have completed their first runs. And it's actually Luke Wolster who snuck into second, which we didn't see earlier on. Luke Wolster with a 131.013. But only one driver so far that can beat the 31 barriers and drive into the 30s. And that is Silly Sly Guy. Meantime, that gives us a little bit of time to talk about the Las Vegas track for you guys out there. So the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, as it's called, we've had one official race here, although there were 2 races before in the past, which was then still the parking lot of Caesar's Palace back in the early 80s. This track, though, 6.120 kilometers long, or 3.803 miles, and has 17 corners, as I mentioned earlier on, 2 DRS zones, is what I have in my info, but by the looks of it, yeah, that's true. So there is one after the Harbor Islands apartments corner. So after turns 3 and 4, so the Rochelle Avenue intersection, you have the DRS zone onto where you see the 1 on the mini map, which is Koval Lane. That's your first DRS zone, and then the second is after turn 12, which comes after the Treasure Island. So around the height of the Mirage is where you have your DRS zone, and then all the way down the Las Vegas Strip is your second DRS zone. Currently one driver already out again, that is Trackers. He's going out fairly early, which could indicate that he might be going for 3 laps in total. 4 laps in total, sorry, but given the fact that we've already had 8 minutes pass by, means it's going to be very hard for him to set 4 timed laps. So I think the drivers will be going for the 3 timed laps that we spoke of earlier on. Also because this track is quite long. It's one of the longer tracks on the calendar. Still, the times don't really show for that. 6.1 kilometers is fairly long. Now making sure to warm up his tires, as you can see, using heavy braking as he moves through the flat out section. Reason why drivers do that, to heat up your tires without ruining the tires. It's a new gimmick you have here in F1 23. So if you're looking to become a pro driver, I want to know how I can heat those tires up without wasting the tires, without swerving from left to right, brake, gas, slow down, whatever. Use this. This is what the pro drivers do. Full throttle. Have that pedal 30-40%, that's about right. Car won't go flat out, but you heat up the tires, make sure they're nice, just above the 90s, and that is where you want them. That is the sweet spot where you want to have those tires at. And yeah, if they overheat, you're gonna outbrake yourself. If they're too cold, it won't break either. So that is what you need. In the meantime, Frank Turner is mentioning that the banker that Silly Sly Guy is, mentioned was Tier 3 pole position. So Tier 4 already here tonight, showing he've got some exceptionally pace. So I'm very curious to see if Trackers can improve on his second lap, as we also note that Akko Soltis ran out of fuel in his previous lap. That's why he could only do a 132.4. Hopefully he can do a little bit better later on. But I'm curious to see Pulkis' lap. We saw Trackers' full lap earlier on, so let's go on board with Pulkis and see if he can improve on that 131.416. Needs to improve by 6 tenths if he wants to grab pole position. But just a tenth already puts him up a position. And yeah, get more than 2 tenths. And already up in the top 5. So a lot of improvements for Pulkis to be made. The one race that he did go to picked up a pole position and a race win. I don't think he picked up a fastest lap. If he did, that would have been a grand slam for him. And that as a reserve driver is exceptionally impressive. Now making his way down to the end of the first sector. Pulkis puts in a 43.4. That is almost 2 tenths quicker than his previous lap. So Pulkis has the pace. It's a purple first sector. A Silly Sly Guy has left the session. Not sure as to what happened to him there, as Pulkis has to swerve a little bit. Roman Dijme, in the meantime, has retired from the session. That must have been a crash, and it looks to be coming out of the pit, so that is a far from ideal spot to do that at. Now Pulkis making his way down. Lost a little bit of time there, but still about 2 tenths quicker. So if he can nail this corner here, and does that quite okay, does not pick up track limits there, and that is what you don't want to do here. So now on board with Pulkis, making his way around Top Golf, turn 17, as he's eyeing a better position. He puts in a 131.0, massive improvement down the last sector, and he puts that car in P5, but we know he did lose a little bit of time in Sector 2, didn't gain anything either, so there definitely is more up for grabs for him here, the qualifying in Vegas. Now let's move on to Akim Lai, who was pushed back 1 position, had a 31.2 to his name. The Silly Sly Guy has rejoined, but yeah, that internet connection issue means he can only go for 1 more run, and does have 2 runs in total, although he does have 2 tenths over his competition. But look at that, Akim Lai first sector, also 2 tenths up. So Akim Lai is looking to break that 131 second barrier as well, and put that car close to his competitors. Now making his way down the Vegas Strip, couple of cars in front of him, but they're also on fast laps. Noé Grosjean in the meantime has put his car in P4, so a good lap from him. Daniel has aborted his lap. Alex has aborted his lap. Golgi has. Track is back in. Maciej has aborted his lap. We see Raymond de Niet picking up a few places in P6 now, as we didn't see Akim Lai's second sector time, but here he comes down the straight. Has to make it count here. Is it going to be a sub 31? It will be. And indeed, P2 for now for Akim Lai, but still 1/10 off of that pole time, provisional pole time from Silly Sly Guy. He really put out the pace there and is only the second driver to come across, so immediately setting that benchmark and making it oh so hard for the drivers to catch up with him. Now Noé Grosjean has come in. He set a quicker lap time just a moment ago. Tomasz Kenny has also done his lap. German Polyakov has invalidated. Marko Gurchik was quicker, but he has done his lap now as well. Patrick Dackmeyer is also out of that. Akko Soltis, yeah, look at that. That was 8 tenths quicker, but that was also the previous lap. So it looks like most of our drivers are done with their second run. It's only Carson who still has to come across, and he is going to abort as well. But I think that is due to time concerns, because he has to improve by a second. And was only up about 27 thousandths of a second. And with 4.20 on the clock, not intended, we see him head into the pits and prepare for that final run. A couple of drivers are still out, but I think they are still heading into the pits. So what we're looking for now is the first driver to leave the pits. And then we know who is going to be starting the final laps. But given what we've seen earlier on the session, I do expect Trackis to come out first. Although we might be surprised. Meantime, Marko Gucic does seem to push quite a bit. I was expecting him to come in, and he does indeed. So it's just a very fast outlap, just making sure he has enough time left for the end of the run, as we see some drivers come out. And there we have an Aston Martin. Is that Tires Danny or Patrick Dackmeyer who's going to be the first one to make that run? I think that is Tires Danny. So Tires Danny, previous champ here at WOR, is a driver to watch out for. Managed to end tier 9 if my memory serves me right. Now up in T4. But that definitely shows that he knows what it is to lead a championship, to win races here. So far in the season has not been faring too well for him. Let me take a quick peek, because Tars Danny currently is on no points after a DNF in the first race. And last outing there were no points by the looks of it. And of course in Silverstone was not there. So does have something to fight for tonight. In round 4, tried to pick up his first points of the season. And we'll be watching him make his way around the Las Vegas Strip Circuit. What I also want to be doing later on is to go on board with Silly Sly Guy. He's going to be our third in line out here. So he will be a driver to watch, because he currently has that provisional pole. But I'm mostly curious if he can go quicker. He's already close to the tier 3 pole, which is a tier up from this. So it shows how close and competitive these tiers are together. Tier lower, but still matching the times. We've seen it many different occasions, even in race times, where lower tiers would finish with less total race time than the higher tiers, even though we had similar conditions. So just because you're a tier higher or lower doesn't mean too much. Of course, except for if you are in the first tier, then you are a true GOAT. But this is where our stars of tomorrow, our future stars, are born. And first up is Tires Danny, as he's going to start his final run. Let's listen to that Aston Martin. Making his way down the Rochelle Avenue intersection onto Colville Lane. Good exit from Tires Danny there, as he makes his way down the first DRS section. Looks like we're going to have a lobby restart in a moment due to that penalty by Tommaso Kenny. Good lap so far by Tars Danny, trying to use as much of the track as he can. This is a very difficult corner. It's a blind one to steer into. But it looks like Danny is doing that quite okay. Does hit the apex a little bit later, but that makes sure that he can get a pretty good exit there. And his first sector time is indeed almost 3 tenths quicker, but still a couple of tenths off of the faster times, the faster sector times we've seen so far here tonight. Does not overshoot there, although has a little bit of a wiggle down on the exit off turn 12, now making his way down the Vegas Strip. Sector 2, can he improve here a little bit? There's not much that he can improve on here, as there are not a lot of corners in Sector 2. And even despite of that, he does lose about a tenth on his lap time so far. So he is going for 31.3 as he slightly overshoots into the last corner sections. And he's going to go in. He's going to go in. So it looks like he lost enough time that he's not going to complete his lap. We are immediately going to swap over to Silly Sly Guys. We saw one of the Williams drivers being about half a second up. Akim Lai is a little bit down. I think it was not Alex, it was Raymond. Look at that. Raymond was half a second quicker down the first sector. But that was last time around. Now he's 1.5 tenths up. Silly Sly Guy's taking the flag, so have Danny and Carson. Trackis puts his car in P8. Good final run as we're still on board with Raymond. What can he do down the straight? German puts himself into P11. As down the strip, Raymond is currently... Well, here we have our sector time. He's a little bit down as Luke also has gone into the pits. Alex just slots in behind him into P8. Can Raymond still improve a little bit? That last corner has to be spot on as Patrick Dagmeyer also goes into the 30s. A wonderful P3 for him as Akim Lai does not improve either. And Raymond, as he comes across the line, goes from P8 to P8. 15,000 of a second slower, does not improve on his lap time. Then we have Daniel Gottschalk. He goes quicker. That's P2. That's equal. It's equal to his teammate. Both Mercedes drivers on a 138.17. That is astonishing. That is absolutely insane. I've never seen teammates put in the same qualifying lap time as one another. As we see our final few drivers come through, with Akko Soltis coming out in P13. That is crazy, man. It's a front row lockout for Mercedes with the exact same lap time. That's proper mental. That's amazing. But yeah, so pole for Silly Sly Guy, second in championship, but with the championship leader absent, this is a very good opportunity for Silly Sly Guy to retake that championship lead, but equal times, crazy, absolute scenes here tonight in WRT4. But behind the Mercedes, we find that Red Bull of Akim Lai, then it's Patrick Dagmar, great qualifying by him, followed by Luke Wolso, who's P3 in the championship. Then we have Noé Grosjean, Polk is in P7, Raymond Deniet, Marco Gurchik, and Alex Schreinemakers rounding off P10, the top 10. Then it's Trackis, Tamas Kukeni, both of the McLarens in 12 and 13, with Akko Soltis in 13. Then it's German Polyakov, Goji in P15, Tars Danny putting Aston Martin P16, and finally Frank Turner, Maciej Lutinsky, Carson F1, and last with no time, Roman Dijme, but I believe that was due to an incident in quali. Now, the driver's mentioning in the Discord that we should not leave the lobby, but we have to do a restart, as Maciej Lutinsky has confirmed. We should see that in the lobby information, although we just have a confirmation of what happened. So we will be restarting the lobby in a moment. But yeah, those were... that is not what I expected. That is pretty crazy. Alright, yeah, in the meantime, let's actually take a further look at the standings, because I gave you the top 5 earlier on. Pokes and Seb are shared for P6 with 25 points. Both of them with 1 race win and no further results. Seb only participating in 2 races so far, also not being here tonight. He's being swapped out by the man who unfortunately qualified in P20. That is Roman Dijme for you. But for the constructor standings, it's, well, as you could expect, Mercedes in the front spot after some great sessions in Bahrain and Silverstone, but with a double DNF last time out in Monaco, kind of butchering their lead that they had over the competition. That has now shrunk to only 9 points to Red Bull. Red Bull picking up a race win and 8 points in the last race. And yeah, with 33 points, coming closer when you were only on 58, that is quite substantial. So well done by Red Bull. In P3 for the standings, we have Haas with Marco Gurchik and Luke Wolsto. P4 is for McLaren, 16 points for the pairing of Tamas Kukeni and Akko Soltis. And in 5th, we have the AlphaTauri pairing of Maciej Lutinsky and Goji. Interesting to note, all teams have picked up at least 1 point, with Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin both having 1 point to their name. And yeah, also interesting to note, in our top 10, 4 reserve drivers. So in P10, we have Alu, drove 1 race, picked up 10 points. And P9, it's Jay Kennedy, who did 1 race, only Monaco, 12 points for him. Pulkis, also the only 1 race. He picked up 25 points, puts himself in P6. And then our championship leaders, Mikolaj Nowicki, reserve driver, participated in all 3 races so far, but won't be here tonight, so it's very likely he's going to lose that championship lead to either Silly Sly Guy, Luke Wolsto, Akim Lai, or, yeah, it could also be Daniel Gottschalk. Of course, more drivers could take it, like Polkus too. Only Polkus. But he'd have to pick up a race win or a second place if he wants to do so. So likely one of the aforementioned drivers, one of the other 4 drivers, will be more likely to take that. Frank Turner not very happy with his qualifying lap time, mentioning that he lost quite some time in his qualifying run due to some issues on Discord. In the meantime, the lobby is loading, so I'm trying to see what exactly is happening, but I think that's because we're heading back into the lobby, and we indeed are. So we have all our drivers still here. We are still in spectate, so we'll wait and get ready for the race here tonight. So 25 laps in Vegas. Going to be a sunny race, no rain out there, with 25 laps of about 138 that we'll likely see. That will make up for a good 40 minutes of action out there with the pit stops as well. So about 40 minutes that we'll be having. So we will go past our 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. British time zone. And yeah, we just have to mention that Thomas Kokeni will start in P12, that we should not apply his grid penalty. A little bit more information then for you guys out there about the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, so you have a bit of an idea of what the corner names are when I'm going to mention them. So turn 1, we referred to it earlier, that is Harbor Island Apartments. Turns 3 and 4, so the loop down the bottom towards the first DRS section, that is Rochelle Avenue intersection. Then the first DRS zone, Colville Lane. Onto a right-hander, which is Caesars Forum. You go down Westchester Drive, No idea how the Americans pronounce it. It's slightly different to what the Brits do. Then the left-right is the MSG Sphere. You know, that lovely sphere with the emoji, the Aston Martin commercials, the Vegas Sphere, the expensive thing out there. Good for commercials. Then the left, the elevated monorail. You should see a monorail somewhere out there. I'll try to go on board so you can hopefully see that a little bit. Then down to the Sands Avenue to the right, back to the left, Palazzo Venetian, where we saw Lando Norris crash. Then across the Windowtown Treasure Island, where you go left, where it's very easy to either overshoot or hit the barriers as Lando did. Unfortunately, not to his fault. But there was like a bump in the road. But then down to turn 12, where you can also find Treasure Island. We go on to the main straight, the Las Vegas Boulevard, where we pass not only the Mirage, Caesar's Palace, but also the Bellagio fountains, which you see there, also lovely. And then down to the left section, down towards the City Center Plaza, Planet Hollywood, down the Harmon Avenue, and then round Top Golf before we are at the end of the circuit. So you see some lovely hand gestures by me, so you have a bit of an idea where you're going, but because it's all merit what I'm doing, you probably have no idea what this mad lad is onto. But that hopefully gives you a bit more information about the Las Vegas track. Gives me a bit of time to have a sip of my drink. No commercials to be made here. As we are waiting for our drivers to ready up. There has not been a note so far in the Discord chat, but I assume that is going to happen any moment. The lobby's been updated once more, so our drivers should be about ready. The lobby, at least, should be about ready for us to start this race. And for those who forgot, in the 5 minutes of non-stop talking from my end, we have the Mercedes pairing on the front row lockout for Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Silly Sly Guy in P1, Daniel Gottschalk in P2. So yeah, for now, no further updates, at least as we wait. Gives me a little bit of time to tell you and remind you of the calendar and what is still going to be happening. I'll make sure to have the dates for you as well, because that is a little bit easier for you out there, as we just got the call in the Discord chat that we're about to get started. So today we're here in Vegas. Next week we're going on to Texas, the Circuit of the Americas. Howdy, partner. Before moving on in 2 weeks to Singapore, the lovely Singapore Street Circuit, where there's always hot and action just like Monaco. Then we're going to take a little bit of break. It's Christmas break, it's the New Year's break, before we return on January 8th where we have Mexico, but there's still an asterisk to the Mexico name, so we'll have to see what happens with that. January 15th, it's Portugal, the track of Portimao. January 22nd, we go to Spa, before moving on and rounding off January with a race in Austria. The Styrian Grand Prix rounds the A1 ring, as it was formerly called, but now the Red Bull ring. And then finally on to China, the Shanghai, the International Circuit, on February 5th, where we'll have our season finale here at WOR T4. In the meantime, the drivers are loading in, so that means we'll be moving from my face onto the race face, the in-game view, and this is what we'll be looking out for tonight. So I'm going to move just a little tap closer so you can hear me a bit better. If I am overpowering the in-game sound or if I'm too loud, please do let me know, because if I do get a little bit shouty, that might be a bit annoying at times. As mentioned before, 25 laps to our name. It is a night race, but no casts or forecasts of overcast or drops of rain. No drizzles, no thunder. Hopefully no potholes either. But it looks like we're going to have a clean race, at least in terms of weather. Also, no further commercials to distract us on the MSG sphere. Although I do think the F1 game would do really well to make sure that they put some advertisement on there. It might be a little bit difficult. Well, actually, I don't think it's too difficult to do. I think it would be very, very cool. Maybe even if you have like the race view on there on the sphere, it'd be quite lit. That would be quite chill. Let's see if that suggestion does make the way all the way up to the devs. But that is not important now, because in any moment's time now, really, we can move on to the grid and get this race started. If you can see in the background, by the way, I don't think you can see my mouse, nor do I see my mouse, but if you look all the way to the left, you see that the cars are kind of in a bend where they're lined up. So this is not just a straight start-finish straight as you have on pretty much all track. It's a little bit with a curve, a little bit of an angle to it. That is one of the reasons why this Las Vegas circuit is a little bit of unique. Most tracks don't have that. But yeah, what track do you see come down the Las Vegas Strip? Well, it can only be one track really, but there are very few tracks that have such an impressive boulevard that they can drive along to. Of course, Monaco does have quite a thing for it going as well. And Singapore, I wouldn't know if it's very famous. Maybe Macau could be up there. But we're here for the Las Vegas race with 4 and 5 red lights on. And we are on our way with a good start for the Mercedes on the inside. That is Daniel Gottschalk. But can he immediately take the lead from Silly Slager? He does. But the switchback! A marvelous switchback by Silly Slager. And he retakes the lead as Hakim lies immediately under pressure by Luke Wolstow, who really had a great start to his name as well. He's picked up a few positions. Patrick Dackmeyer losing quite a few as we have a yellow flag, and that is, I think, for Thomas Kokeni, who has lost his front wing there. But seeing the debris on the road, I think more drivers have had contact. Frank Turner a little bit further down the back, and yeah, also a missing front wing for his teammate Noé Grosjean. But seeing how careful Frank Turner is, it's a safety car. It's a safety car already, so because of the caution in Sector 1, we couldn't see it. But the drivers are driving slow enough, that would mean safety car. So it's a virtual safety car for the debris that we have on the road. And that means so far no further changes. Gives us some time to look at the positions change, because quite a few drivers made up a lot of places. Most notably Tars Dani, Maciej Lutinsky and Roman Dismay, who made up 4 positions. 3 positions made up by Ako Soltis, now in P10, and Marko Gorczyk in P6. 2 places for Pulkis, Alex Schreinemakers, Strakis, Goji, and Carson F1. And finally 1 place made up just by Luke Wolstow, but that does put him in P4. The biggest losses go out to Noé Grosjean and Thomas Kokeni. They were involved with incidents. Frank Turner not having the greatest starts either. And Patrick Dackmeyer dropping from P4 to P7 with not a great start either. In the meantime, it looks like the virtual safety car has ended, so we will go on to the action down the back of Pulkis as around the outside, the ass almost flies into the wall. There's contact. There's contact between Marko Gurchik and Pulkis. Is there damage on that Alfa Romeo? It doesn't look like a front wing end plate is missing, but that did not look cozy at all. Wonder what the stewards will have to say about that later on. It does, however, put Marko Gurchik up yet another place, as he's now hot on his teammates still. That is Marko Gurchik. In the meantime, also Alex Schrijnemaker's having a look down the inside, but look at that, a lot of drivers trying to go side by side. Echo Solti's trying to make up some positions around the outside of the Alpine, but this is not a place where you can do that, as we have indeed 3 drivers that have already gone for their first pit stop. Remember, DRS will not be activated up until the next lap, so we'll have to wait for that a little bit still. Tire strategy is also drivers likely going for a one stop. If we look at the tires that we have here tonight, we see most drivers out on the hards, as Pulkis already has a 3-second time penalty, but that is for corner cutting. That won't help him out. Noé Grosjean's left the session, so we'll let the AI drive for him. Did not retire, as we have yet another virtual safety car. Why do we have a virtual... And another time penalty for Pulkis for cutting a corner and gaining a position. What is going on here? I was just about to call out the tires. There's no damage here. Is there damage to Frank Turner? I don't know why we have a virtual safety. Anyways, 3 drivers currently on the mediums. That are Pulkis, Tabasco Kenny, and Noé Grosjean, but the last 2 have gone for a pit stop. So most drivers decide to start on the hards. I think Frank Turner also started on the mediums, but he, of course, could not continue to do so. German Poliakov, in the meantime, is into the pit, so maybe the virtual safety car was because of him, and indeed, he is missing a front wing, so the virtual safety car was because of that. So we have found our culprit, and we now know why that all came into play, but that also means that DRS is not into play yet. Let's go on to where the gaps are closest, and that would be moving on to Patrick Dackmeyer, who was only 3/10 away from Pulkis, but we'll have to wait. Yeah, see, DRS has been enabled, however, so that means down the Vegas Strip we'll see the first action of DRS as we now go on board with Alex Schrijnemaker, who's so close to Patrick Dackmeyer, but this is a very dangerous spot to overtake, so Alex will not try that indeed, as we see yet another penalty come out. That is Roman Dijme, 3 seconds for corner cutting. Now Alex needs to get a good exit here. Will get DRS, but so will Pulkis up in front. Patrick Dackmeyer so in front, and also Pulkis up in front. So we have yet another yellow in Sector 2. That is a Red Bull. That is Roman Dijme who's caused the yellow. But no further incidents reported, as we see a lot of tussling up for the lead. We were very interested in what Alex was going to do. In the meantime, Silly Sly Guy has lost his P2 to Akim Lai. And Daniel Gottschalk is also fighting for the race lead for the time being. But look at that, Silly Sly Guy immediately trying to come back around the outside. This is not a place where you want to do it. Akim is defending that. And Silly Sly Guy not going for a send down the inside. But we saw earlier on that with a closer exit. This is too tight. This is very tight going through the Rochelle Avenue intersection. They're now side by side into the first DRS zone. And it looks like Silly Sly Guy has that move complete. Immediately sends it down the inside, but will not at least fully send it down to Daniel Gottschalk. We thought Silly Sly Guy only lost the position to Akim Lai earlier on the Las Vegas Strip. He lost 2 places, also losing 1 to Daniel, who is now in the race lead, as Pulkis and Marko Gurchik are now fighting for that P5, as we see that Patrick Dackmeyer has also lost that place to Alex, who is now also overtaken Marco. So Alex doing a great job. Patrick again falling back because of being overtaken by Trakis. And now Frank Turner, penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He has stopped his race, as we see a good move by Alex, making that move stick onto Marko Gurchik. Now Frank Turner has also left the session, but we're going to move in to Silly Sly Guy. He's got DRS. Daniel does not. And the Mercedes pairing will be fighting for that lead down the inside. Silly Sly Guy goes. And there will be no defending from Daniel, though a little bit. Oh, and Silly Sly overshoots. He completely overshoots into turn 14. And that will cost him dearly. dropping from P1 to P13 as he almost spins his car again. But that is not what you want to see happening. Now has to go for quite the redemption race, but thankfully still has 21 laps to do so. And of course, counting that 25th and final lap. But lost a good 6-7 seconds there. That is not how you want to have your race going. And more importantly, there's no DRS for him either. He'll have to get back on own power and get back to the front of the pack, as German Polyakov has just set the fastest lap time. Meantime, we are on board with Akos Soltis, has made up quite a few positions. And Maciej Lutinsky, who's into the wall, the end of Koval Lane into Caesar's Forum. Is that going to be a safety car? Well, we have our third virtual. By the looks of it, nothing at all. So debris has been cleared by the game. And we continue on as Akos Soltis is starting to get closer and closer to Raymond Denit. He will want to overtake, but actually up in front, Raymond is even closer to Patrick Drakmeyer up front. But here we have a fight going on for P2. Luke Walsto has just overtaken Akim Lai. Both of the drivers have DRS, but the slipstream is only there for Akim Lai. As in the back, we see more and more fights with Alex Schreidemakers coming out into P4. When he makes that move stick onto Pulkis. Great overtakes by him, but what a massive start to his race so far. We now are at the beginning of lap 6, the end of lap 5, and Alex has made up 6 positions already, as he's now 1.2 seconds away from his next victim, and that is Akim Lai. Further down the order, we see the gap with Silly Sly Guy staying around about the same, so that's about 2.4 seconds, but I think he'll have to try something with the pit stop sequence in order to close that gap once more. Alex, I think, should be capable of closing that gap to Akim and making sure that the top all is within DRS range, as we see Pulkis and Marko Gurchik going at it, as Marko has to watch out with the exit because down the inside is Pulkis, and he will have to try and outbrake him. They try to go side by side, really isn't any place for it, but they still go side by side through the sphere into the elevated monorail corner, and it indeed is Pulkis who stays up front, but Silly Sly Guy. 3-second time penalty for Tracklet. What's going on here? What's going on here? Almost a massive crash by Marko Gurchik. And somehow, some way, Trackis finds himself into P5. Raymond Denit also tried to make up some more places. Patrick Drakmeyer back into P7. So much action here. Starting from P4, now Luke Walsto takes over the lead. Alex has closed the gap to Akim Lai, and Trackis, yeah, there's now quite the gap there, but what? Okay, that was a little bit of decent. I thought when the Astons flew straight into the wall, that looked like a pothole incident. Of course, no potholes in the game, as spin by Goji. So he'll be sent back down the order a little bit, as we see Silly Sly Guy has gotten back within the DRS zone. Now, let's quickly go on to Akos Soltis, who is ready to overtake Tires Danny. Going on board, looking down the inside, but knows he can't make that move stick. He's gonna slot behind, chill behind, but down to corners 3 and 4. Almost ready. If he can get the better exit down the first DRS zone, he could swerve by. But it looks like he can't come too much closer. He's having a look down the inside, but as soon as he just brakes a little bit sooner, knows he won't drive into that back of Tires Danny. As Danny did outbrake himself there slightly. So Akos really is looking for a moment where Danny is going to make a mistake. That Aston is wobbling up in front. Does not look like that car is on rails. But neither is Akos Soltis' car, as he almost spins out in the MSG sphere. Now coming to the end of the first section. Still trying to get closer and closer to the points, because he's now P11. One more place and I will put him into P10, but virtually is in P10, of course, with that penalty that Pulkis has to his name. Double penalty even. Pulkis has 8 seconds currently to his name. And as we look at our full penalties, which we have over here, those are 8 to Pulkis, 3 to Silly Sly Guy, who is now actually going to overtake Akos Soltis. And also 3 to Roman Dishme, and that one was for corner cutting. Akos Soltis knows he can't go for a move just quite yet. That was a lot of desync, and that almost caught Akos Soltis off guard. Thankfully, no damage because of that. And look at the Williams pairing. Raymond has also picked up a position over Marko Gurczyk. And that was a poor exit by Trakis. Raymond had to avoid that in order to avoid a collision there. And more sliding coming out by Trakis. This could be the opportunity for Raymond. Sending it down the inside on Koval Lane. Raymond puts himself into P5 and his teammate has actually made his way up into P3. More notably, he is hot. Oh, that's so close. Oh, so close. I hope that's no damage for Alex. But he's got some insane pace in that Williams. Will it be enough on Cielo? Cielo in Sector 1. Pukas again, a penalty. But I think that is Patrick Dackmeyer. He's made a mistake. Don't know if there's any damage. But thankfully, no safety car or a virtual safety car further to that list. A good exit for Alex could mean that he can make his way past Daniel Gottschalk. The exit seemingly better, but cannot get closer just yet. Does have a bit of that slipstream effect. Not using too much ERS, and it looks like this lap at least will not go for a move, and so will Daniel not. Onto the race lead, onto Luke Walso, but down behind him, Marko Gurczyk has come back onto Raymond de Niet. Puts himself into P5. Tars Danny is having a little bit of a tussle too. Polkas has dropped down the order quite significantly. A silly Sly Guy has made his way back into P9 already. But he's looking to dispatch round the outside. Maybe a switch back to the inside. Beautiful move by silly Sly Guy. Outbraking Danny there. And puts that Mercedes back into P8. His next victim, Trakis, P7. And we saw him struggle with the tires already as Akko Soltis is making his first pit stop. And that is going to be to switch out the hearts, isn't it? That is to switch out the hearts for the mediums. And we have yellow in Sector 1. Who's that for? That's for Daniel! Daniel loses his P2, and he's now in P7. Both of their Mercedes drivers having made mistakes. The silly Sly Guy is having a lot of desync issues. That might be why he's made that mistake earlier on. But for the Mercedes pairings, starting in 1 and 2, now in 7 and 8. Not a great showing by them so far, as we're now going to go on board with Raymond de Niet as he is in P5. But with DRS down that straight, already a better exit is going to smoothly sail by Marko Gurczyk. Akim Lai has taken back that P2 from Alex. But the Williams pairing still in 3 and 4. But here comes Marko Gurczyk. Has to watch out for Trakis, who's in the inside. Daniel is trying to join in with that fight as well. Almost loses it out of turn 16. And that means that Silly Sly Guy is going to have a look down the inside. Here they come. Down the main straight. Daniel Gottschalk actually tried to go for it. Look at that. Almost 3 wide. Really make sure he don't make contact there. And Silly Sly Guy is going to stay on the inside because he knows he's got more grip there. Around the outside of turns 3 and 4. Tries to dispatch Marko Gurczyk. They're now side by side onto Koval Lane. But he will need to outbrake. Already swerves down to the middle. So he can defend. That is contact. That is massive contact. Both of the Williams drivers caught up with that. But it looks like Silly Sly Guy tried to go for a bit of a risky move. That caught Marko Gurczyk off guard. And that caused this chaos here. And we have a safety car. The first safety car of the race. All drivers had already crossed the start-finish line. But the safety car is for an incident with Roman Dishme. Akko Soltis has picked up yet another penalty. So much going on here tonight in Vegas. But with this being the first safety car, this is good news for Polkas. Polkas can make his pit stop now. So can Tomasz Kenny, Noé Grosjean, and I think German Polyakov as well. And perhaps, well, likely finish the race on the hard compounds. The drivers are currently on hards. They can switch for mediums. But that will not take him to the end of the race. I think they will go for a pit stop. It is the better decision to make regardless. But that is not going to help them out. And also very interesting to see. Well, Williams has about 3-second gap, so double stack not too much of an issue. But for Williams, both of the drivers are also close. Are they going to go for a double stack here? Let's first go to the front of the pack where Luke Walsall was still leading. He's going to come in Yeah, most of the drivers will be coming in indeed. Let's see who does not come in. Trackis comes in. Tarzan, yeah, everyone heading into the pit. So a double stack with Silly Sly Guy and Daniel Gottschalk. Marco's coming in. Patrick's coming in. Where is Carson? Carson's coming in. Goji coming in. No. Oh, whoop. Carson? Wait. Who's not... What is going on? So Carson got a collision with Goji. Did he just get back onto... No? Oh, was it? No, it's not... No idea. No idea what happened. Anyways, pretty much all of our drivers came in. Akko Soltis is stay out, but his mediums were only 2 laps old. All the other drivers have come in for fresh mediums. Only Pocus who came in for the fresh hards. That is going to help him towards the end of the race. What will not help him are the penalties he's got to his name. 6 seconds still. Silly Sly Guy's gotten 3. Carson's gotten 5. And there's a drive-through penalty for Akko Soltis. That is something you don't see too often here in the F1 23 game. But that is not going to help him out either. Currently lap 11 out of 25. And we're in our first safety car. In the meantime, for all you people out there in the chat, let us know what you think of the race so far. And who do you think is going to win the race tonight? Is that going to be Luke Walso, which could bump him up into the lead of the championship? Is that going to be Akim Lai, who is going to do the same thing? Or is Alex in the Williams going to crown a great recovery drive, well, a great climb here tonight, and, well, finish that off and crown himself the champion here of Vegas? Or do we see yet another reserve driver step up in the form of Trackis, who's currently in P4, and try and take the race win? But we definitely must not count out the the Mercedes pairing either. The Williams pairing definitely not. They've already shown that they can move their way up. Doing a reverse way up, moving the way down. Silly Sly Guy and Daniel Gottschalk currently P8 and P14, but still autoplay for Silly Sly Guy. Does have 3 seconds to his name, but we know he is able to make a gap. And Daniel, seemingly having more pace and a couple drivers in front of him, should be able to make his way up. But remember, these 2 drivers, the only 2 that made their way into the third 30.8, and also the teammates that set equal lap times. Very impressive. Now we've just gotten to the start of lap 12. This will likely be the last lap behind the safety car. The gaps have all closed by. Currently 3 retirees. Those are Roman Dishmay, Maciej Lutinsky, and Frank Turner. So 1 Red Bull, 1 AlphaTauri, and 1 Ferrari. Scuderia Ferrari that we will not be seeing at the end of the race. Almost halfway through. So we're now making our way down to Koval Lane. But of course the lead pack has gotten a little bit further already, with Luke Walstow starting to head into the MSG sphere, which left and right there you see the sphere towards the right. No animations on there. That's a shame. Make sure to utilize that in the future, as we do see a screen hanging there as they come around the elevated monorail. I don't see the monorail just yet though. Is it further up? Oh, there it is. It's across the track, I think. That should be the monorail. But back to the tires. That is some key information that you guys would like to know. We know all about the penalties already. And as soon as we make our way down the end of the Vegas Strip, we should get the notes. Safety car in this lap. And that means that Luke Walstow can choose the pace as he likes and get off on his feet when he is ready to do so. He'll likely do so after turn 14. But could also do it after turn 16, so after the fast left, right, left, left, right, left combination, and then spear his way on, although could also break the slipstream and go very late just before our final corner 17 top golf. Let's see what Luke is going to do. He can now choose the pace himself. We're on board with the Haas driver. Turn 15 here, turn 16 now. And he is going to wait. So likely just before, so roundabout where you have the yellow blinking light, I think roundabout there he's going to start. Ooh, fakes it a little bit there. And now he goes. There he goes. Just before the notes there, as we already see some overtakes happening. That is not something that we should be seeing. But already a little bit of tussling happening. A silly slide guy and Akosoltis have gone into the pit, so that's why. Noe Grosjean has as well. Oh, this is for the hearts. Now this is a cool strategy. I don't know why Noe Grosjean went for softs. That's a bit optimistic. Akosoltis is going for new medium, so he thinks he can finish it. But silly Sly Guy is betting I can make this to the end. I likely have better pace than the medium runners. Ooh, Luke also goes a bit wide. And I can do the very early undercut and try to win the race with that. So, curious to see how that is going to pan out. Remember, also 3 seconds to his name. Let's see if that will work out for him, as Luke also has to look in his rearview mirrors because Alex is all over him, trying to have a little bit dive down the inside, but knows that he shouldn't, because down here we have the... Oh no, it's Silly Sly Guy, he's overshot! It's yellow in Sector 1 and Silly Sly Guy is overshot. What a disastrous race for a man P2 in the championship. Now P1 in the race is going to be Alex Schrijnemakers, who is now first up leading the race here this season. And he's going to make sure he hangs on to it. The Williams driver up in P1. Luke Walso dropping 1 position. Marco Gorczyk overtaking Polkis for P8. But an awful outing there for Silly Sly Guy. Maybe Akosoltis with his strategy can still make something work here. They definitely went for an offset strategy here with the safety car. But that was a very cool strategy to see. Just a shame to see that fall into pieces by overshooting into turn 5. A little bit further down the grid, we see a lot of drivers close for that P1, even with Danny in P6 all too close to it, as Alex is trying to create a gap. Trackers and Raymond only about 3/10 apart from one another, and also the driver up in front, which is the Red Bull of Hakim Lai. Meantime, Akosoltis is coming again. That is not your average pit stop. But yeah, this would not really help him either unless he has damage. Let's see if he has damage, if we can find that out. Oh, it's his drive-through, of course. Akosoltis had a drive-through penalty, so that explains. As we're now back on board with Alex, who will be looking in his rear-view mirrors to see if Luke Walso is going to come by down the Las Vegas Strip, and judging by how that gap is shrinking, a move is likely not going to be made. Although he does have a look down the inside, he's not going to make a real move. Although Track is getting extremely close to Raymond's tail, but he is still in P5. No real changes, position changes happening so far, as our full position changes show that Alex has made up 9, Track is made up 6, but the biggest gainer, Tires Danny P6, picked up 10 places so far this race, and definitely more up for grabs for him, as he seemingly has the pace to keep up with the cars in front. In the meantime, we are going to drop down to Patrick Dackmeyer to give him a little bit of screen time. Really good qualifying session for him. Finished in P4 qualifying here tonight. Now finds himself in P9. He's caught an incident earlier on. Not a great start either, but does find himself back into P9 and back on the way up. Back up the ladder. His teammate in P6, Silly Sly Guy, is retired from the session. That is a DNF, but as a DNF in the pit. So our second in the championship standings for 2 races in a row is not going to score points. That can only be good news for Daniel Gottschalk, Luke Walstow, and Hakim Lai, as they try to overtake him and take the championship lead. As it stands now, Luke Walstow is going to take over the championship lead from Mikalainen Wiki. But Silly Sly Guy will have to see what is happening all to him. If these are the desyncs, or if there's something else going on. Regardless, after round 1 and 2, he has not been himself, and will need to recuperate from that next week when we go to the Circuit of the Americas. Staying in America with a first ever back-to-back. as we now see German Polyakov set the fastest lap time with a 33.9. Of course, still about 3 seconds off the qualifying lap times. Likely are not going to see the drivers come too much closer to that. But up towards front, we see that Alex has been overtaken once more by Luke Wolstow. As for now, Alex does not want to immediately retake that down on Koval Lane. He's rather waiting from the Vegas strip and a retake. It's P1. And we have another yellow in Sector 1. Who is that for? It looks like Danny dropping down the order here. But is that going to cause anything further? He spun his car around. Does he have damage though? Does Danny have damage? There's no safety car. There's no virtual safety car. That's good. And it does not look like any visible damage that we can see. But that will stop his march upwards. It puts him back into P14. Still 2 places up. But nowhere near the 10 places he was up before, as we go back to the front of the pack with yet another tussle for the lead. Alex Schreinemakers taking over the lead from Luke Wolstow. Akim Lai kind of just hanging back, making sure that he doesn't get overtaken, but doesn't ruin his tires either in the fight up front. What I'm curious about is what these drivers are going to do towards the end portion of the race, because remember, we have 9 more laps. These mediums will just about not last. Daniel, in the meantime, back into P7. I don't think these drivers are going to be coming in for an extra pit stop unless there's a safety car. The tire advantage will then go to Polkis, but he has a time penalty to his name. So a driver that we should watch out for a little bit further down the back is Daniel. Daniel is about half a second away from Marco. But Marco does not have DRS. He's 2 seconds behind Trackis. So Daniel will need to dispatch of Marco as quickly as possible and try and close that gap onto Trackis and see if he can get back into the fight for the lead. Pulkis is not letting go of that either. But our eyes for now fixated on Daniels. We see a little bit of slide coming out of the exit turn 9 for Marco. Now making their way through right, left. This is where you can find a bump in the road that could send you just off, as Daniel has a, well, I was going to say good exit, but does have to make 2 corrections there in order to avoid hitting the wall. As he now comes down the Vegas strip, the gap's about 3/10. This is close enough. This should be smooth sailing, but look at that. Polk is behind. Patrick Dackmeyer behind. Almost 4 wide they go down the Vegas strip. But can Daniel make it? Yes, he can make it stick. He moves himself into P6. Polkis comes to P7. Marco drops down 2 places. That's to watch out for Patrick Dackmeyer as well. Now Daniel has 2.7 seconds to gain on the drivers up front. Not an easy task, especially because Polkis is still looking for it, and so is Marco with a move, a send down the inside onto Polkis. And he makes that. He makes the move stick. The softer goal. Oh, it's spin by Daniel. And that is contact too. I'm not sure who lost front wing end plate there. But what a disastrous weekend once more for Mercedes. You put your cars on 1-2. Then several mistakes. Daniel now back down to P13. Your teammate out of the race. We had a double DNF for Mercedes last race as well, but this is just awful for them. Not the weekend that Mercedes was going for, and a back-to-back weekend where it's not working out for them. This will also cost them the lead in the constructor standings for the time being, unless Daniel can do something about it, but I think there is damage to that Mercedes. Let's see if we are following him. When we are following him, I don't think he has any... He doesn't have any damage in his front wing, but he must have been tapped down the back, and I think that was by Polkis. So he's driving... No, that's Carson, sorry. So it's not Carson. Perhaps it was Goji, Patrick Dackmeyer. Let's see if we can find out which driver made contact. Tomasko Kenny was not it. Ooh, very late move by German Polyakov. I can't see which driver has lost the front wing end plate. So I cannot tell you who made contact with Daniel. Daniel has gone by Carson in the meantime. And so has Patrick Dackmeyer, who has gone into P6. It was German Polyakov, I think, because he's gone into the pits. But with the gap from P6 upwards being 5 seconds now to the leaders, that means that we should focus on the fight with these 5 drivers. So Luke Wolstow just behind Alex Schreinemakers, Akim Lai being super close, Raymond the Need not being far away, and Shrakis, our highest placed substitute driver, his first outing. But so far, fighting for the win, definitely not a bad way to start making your appearance here in WOR Tier 4. Let's actually go on board with Shrakis, who is driving that Alpine tonight, swapping out for Matt Guest, as he's the teammate of German Polyakov German in P15 for the moment. Pretty good exit there for Shrakis, but isn't enough to also gain some position. I think for now, the drivers will try not to lose too much ERS here, as that could cost them, as Luke is going to go for the race lead once more. Akim Lai actually also overtake him, Alex now. He's going to put the Williams drivers back to 3 and 4. Track is really going for some later braking here, and in the braking zone, closing that gap onto Raymond. So good driving by him. Good moves. We're going to see some tussles up ahead because the drivers are very, very close. I don't think Akim Lai is going to make a move down the inside as we see them look. We see them look. But he can't get past Luke. Alex can't profit off of that either. And they have to make sure they don't make contact. Akim Lai is going to break that slipstream. He does not want to overtake Luke Wolstow here. And that is because he's waiting for that next DRS zone. But still our fight up for the lead. 5 drivers. You have 6 laps remaining. Enemy Sam Carson has left the session. I think that is because of a disconnect, because we do still find him in P12 and driving out there. He's going to lose a bit of time, so that means that Tars Danny is going to profit off of that. In the meantime, let's also have a quick look at our telemetry so we can see how much of ERS these drivers have to their name. 95% for Luke Wolstow, 95 Akim Lai, 90 Alex Schreinemakers, Raymond de Niet, also 92. We have yellow, sector 2. Pulkis has left the session. That is a DNF from Pulkis after the penalties. He is the one to cause another yellow out here tonight as Akim Lai is in the lead, and we have, again, no further safety cars. We see very few safety cars here for some reason. There are a lot of incidents where you would think, hey, this is a safety car because the driver has gone, well, wrecked his car in the middle of the street. No, no safety car. But when someone loses front wing, oh, that's a virtual safety car. So, a bit confusing. Unfortunately for Pulkis, it means that he will be out of contention tonight. And that also puts Daniel back up into the points. So even after those 2 mistakes that we've had, he's hard onto Tomasko Kenny's still going to send it down the inside. That's very close for comfort. But can he go round the outside? Tomasko Kenny not giving him any space there. As he's still there. They're still side by side, but DRS for Daniel using all the overtake he has at his disposal, has to brake later, and Tamas is going to yield. So an overtake by Daniel, not a very clean overtake, but I think there's also something to be said about the driving standards for Tomasko Kenny in that occasion. Did leave the slightest of room for Daniel, and it's only a miracle that these 2 drivers did not crash out. Then back towards the lead, we see that Akim Lai actually has gotten a 1-second lead. So no DRS for Alex. And that is not going to help him out, because that means that Luke is going to be powering down that straight and go for the overtake on him. He knows he needs to make that overtake stick, but he can't go for the overtake just yet. They have to make sure they stay within DRS range of Akim Lai, because otherwise he will be picking up his first race win of the season. In the meantime, behind Luke, we find Raymond de Niet being also close to him. A great race so far for the Williams pairing. Let's see if they can hang on to that, because they did start in P10 and in P8. So 8 and 10, now 2 and 4. Great moves upwards by Raymond and Alex. Let's hope they can keep that as is. Now, our tires is not going to be super important. All of them are on the same laps. The drivers further down the order are not going to be of any significance. So we'll look at the positions changed. as... Oh, what happened to Akim Lai? Akim Lai's overshot? Akim Lai's overshot and lost his lead. Had about a second lead, but now finds himself in P3. So back up to the race lead, promoted up, is Alex Schreinemakers. So with 4 laps to go, he has got the right cards in his hand. And also, Akim using a lot of ERS to try and get that 1 second lead. But that mistake is going to cost him. We're going to disable the telemetry again, so to make sure you have the best view of the racing action, but also not to give anything away to the drivers and you guys, the spectators out there either, as Akim has to immediately yield that position to Raymond Denis, but is trying to go for another move down the inside. Now Luke Walso retakes that lead. Akim knows he has to slot in behind in P4, but we have a 5-way battle for the lead as we are about to enter our final 3 laps. Sorry. So lap 23, 24, and 25. 3 laps to go. And Akim has to watch out for Trackis. Let's go on board with Trackis for a time being because he's made the switchback. He's got that switchback still on the outside of the Rochelle Avenue intersection, but is going to have DRS. Slightly better exit perhaps as well. Has the ERS advantage too, if we remember, but is not going to send it down the inside just yet, although Alex has decided to do so. So he is back into the lead. Trackis, if he wants to go for the raceman, does need to clear Akim as quickly as possible. I think his tires are about the worst out of the 5 because he made that mistake earlier on. But Trackis seems to be on the route, smooth as rails, and that could definitely help him out a lot. In the meantime, Goji has made his way up into P7 in front of Marco Gorczyk. Daniel Gottschalk in P9, but that will be the most that he can get unless there are any further incidents up ahead. But we are still on board with Trackis having a little bit of a tricky exit there, but a good entrance, hitting the apex wonderfully as they now enter the strip. Look at that, already closing in. Wants to get that overtake onto Akima. Will need to do it as soon as possible. Luke and Raymond have overtaken Alex. Trackis, can he make a move stickier? Just not quite, as he has to avoid that Red Bull just in front, but they keep it oh so close here. And this fight is getting more and more interesting by the minute. Goji and Marco have gone their way past Patrick Dagmar. Tomasco Kenny with the overtake onto Daniel Gottschalk. Trackis down the inside of Top Golf onto Hakim Lai with a master move as he's now into P4. This is getting more and more tense by the minute, and we have not even entered the final lap just yet. We're down the backstretch, down the strip. Anything can happen. And it really is a gamble as to who is going to win. Oh, it's the Williams driver overshoots. That is Alex, who goes a little bit too wide and loses, concedes a couple of places because of that. Now in P4 as he almost loses it again. Alex, keep your tires okay. This is not the last lap yet. Keep it calm, and do not hit the barriers. You are about to score some amazing points out here tonight. Do not waste that too early here. You still have DRS. Get close in and get ready in the final lap. Now down the straight as we watch Raymond, currently in the race lead, has about a half-second lead, but that normally is not enough to hold Luke Walstow back, and knows he should save a little bit of ERS here. And down around the outside, and oh, almost there, having a little bit of look. Trackis, the drivers do keep it out on track. Looks like Akim Blai has started to fall behind that a little bit, but here we go. Down the straight one more time. We're entering our final lap. And a final sip of my drink means that we're all but ready. We're just going to focus on the race leads. We see German Polyakov make his way into P11. So on the soft tires, he could perhaps still pick up some points. Daniel Gottschalk will have to watch out, as we saw Tomasco Kenny drop 2 positions. 3 positions even, as Daniel is in P9. But the fight here with Raymond letting Luke Walstow by. So making sure his teammate also got by. Almost sends that Alpine into the wall, but they keep it clean. This is a full 4-way fight for the race win. But we see Akim Lai still lingering around the back because he knows he perhaps can make a move stick. We have yellow in Sector 2. We have yellow in Sector 2. That is for a slow driving Akos Soltis. Not entirely sure why that is, but look at that. Luke Walso has gotten a significant gap as we make our way down the Vegas Strip. Very late braking by Raymond, but now they have to make it work. Alex, 9/10s behind, has to use his ERS. There's yellow in Sector 3 once again. That's gone now, but can they still overtake Luke? Luke using everything to defend, using everything to keep the drivers behind him at bay, and it looks like the straight is just not long enough. Gotten that gap early on, and just has to keep it tight for 2 more corners. 3.5 tenths to his name as we see Raymond hit the wall there a little bit, losing a position of it, but it is Luke Walstow picking up the race win in Vegas, and he takes the championship lead as well. Haas as Luke Walstow wins the race. P2 for Alex Kainemakis. Trackis, the reserve driver, his first appearance here in Tiger 4 with a podium. What a master result by him. 8 positions gained as well. Akim Lai then coming round in 4th. Raymond Denit in P5. Great racing for Williams. As we find Marco Gorchik in P6. Also Haas gonna score some great points. Likely overtaking the pairing of Mercedes. Maybe, I think, even overtaking the Red Bull and take over the Constructors lead. But most importantly, Luke is going to be leading the championship as a whole. Then P7 is for Golgi, Patrick Dagmar P8, Daniel still picking up 2 points in P9, not the race he would have wanted, but in front of Tars Danny, who picks up his first points of the season. Well done to him. And then finally we have German Polyakov, Tomas Kokeni, Carson F1, Noé Grosjean, and Akos Soltis without points, at least for the time being, although Noé Grosjean does set the fastest lap time. But seeing how far he is behind the other drivers, that most likely means that the other drivers don't get any. And I don't think he is going to gain more positions for that either. But your race winner for tonight, it is Luke Walstow from the ABS team. What a result for the Haas driver. And there we have our podium celebrations. Waving to the crowd. Again, 3 teams on the podium. A British, a Dutch, and a French driver on the podium. So Trackis, French driver, also driving for the French team. So I think he can only be very proud to put that Alpine on the podium. But great racing action that we saw once tonight. A lot of switchbacks, a lot of fighting there. But it looks like Luke Walso was just the more clever driver in the final lap. Overtaking down the straight, where Raymond and Alex tried to play some games, but did not fall to that. Snuck a gap of about 9/10 onto the strip, so onto the main straight after turn 12, and take that race win. So 42.5 minutes. Yeah, that's correct. Sounded confusing. So about 35 minutes. 45. Oh my god, I can't speak anymore. Luke Walstow is your race winner for tonight in front of Alex Kainemakis, Strakis, Akim Lai, Raymond Denit, Marco Gurchik, Golgi, Patrick Dagmar, Daniel Gottschalk, and Tars Danny in P10. Outside of points, we find German Polyakov, Tomas Kokeni, Carson F1, Noé Grosjean, Akos Soltis, and DNFing. No finishes tonight for Pokus, Silly Sly Guy, Roman Dishmay, Maciej Lutinsky, and Frank Turner. So a lot of crazy action we saw tonight. We're immediately going to jump into the Discord chat to see what the drivers make out of it and see what they have to say. Let's quickly scroll through it. We see some GGs. We kept it clean. Could have been a bit cleaner. So as I say, Tracker says sorry for the last corner. I think there was a little bit of contact with Raymond and Trackis there. But I don't know if there's going to be any inquiries about that. In the meantime, though, we do have Goji out there who wants to have a little bit of an interview with us. And he did finish in the points tonight. He picked up a P7. So let's go out to Goji and have a word with him. So first up for the interviews tonight, we have Goji finishing in P7 tonight for round 4. So far this season, you have picked up just a point in the opening race. So some more points to your name, moving up some places in the standings. But overall, how do you look back on Vegas?
I think I'm happy with it. I'm happy with 7th, but I got spun earlier on, and then yeah, it was just I thought earlier on before that safety car, I thought it was going to be game over, but luckily got saved by the safety car, and I just kept it clean through the whole race, and I was able to get a position on the last lap, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I think we caught that incident earlier on at the stream, so you might be able to find that back. I think it was about lap 6 or 7, round about the front at least, right?
Yeah, it was just going into the final chicane. The guys in front broke quite early, and I sort of just got caught off guard, and I sort of went to the inside just to try and avoid a collision, then I got spun on the apex, so it wasn't really anyone's fault, it was just how it was.
All right. And if we go back to qualifying, which we had earlier on tonight, how did that go for you?
I was happy with my first run, and then my final run, I made a mistake through the what's called just going onto the Vegas Strip. I made a slight mistake going through the corner. I just clipped the wall on the outside, and then I lost all my speed going down the straight. So I was about 10th up, but it is what it is.
All right, so potentially a few more positions were in there for you then.
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe like 1 or 2, but still would have been nice. But it worked out in the end. So.
All right, very good. And coming out to this race, what was your highlight moment of the race tonight?
I would say just last lap move going to chicane. Just it was a nice overtake, and then had a nice drag race to the line with Patrick. And I think the gap was like 300ths on the line, so it was really tight. So, yeah.
All right, very, very good. Well, I hope you're very, very happy with that. P7 was a very nice recovery drive. And, of course, also next week we will be staying here in the States with our first ever back-to-back. We're going to Texas, to COTA, the Circuit of the Americas. Out of the 2 tracks, we have 3 tracks, of course, in the full F1 23 calendar. For our calendar here at WOR, we have 2 races here in the States. What's your favorite?
That's a good question, actually. I would say Texas. I would say is my favorite.
All right. So for next week, what are you eyeing on? What are your goals?
Just to try and score a few points if I can. If I'm to get a point, I'll be happy with that, and then anything else is going to be a bonus in my books.
All right, and then the final question. Of course, the season is quite long, but in regards of the championship, what is your goal?
It would be nice to try and get a top 10 in the standings, but obviously if I'm around that area, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think as it looks now, top 10 starts at about 12 points. You're going to be picking up, let's see, in P7 about 4 points, so it'll be on 5. So you're not too far away from that. Just one good result already puts you up in P10. So definitely looks like a realistic scenario, and hopefully you can do it.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time once again. I really appreciate you coming down to the commentary box every week to have a little bit of a chat. Hopefully some other drivers will do so in the future as well. And I wish you all the best for next week.
Yeah, thank you very much, and see you next week.
See you next week. So there we have it, folks, our interview and also our final interview for tonight. That was Goji, who has put that AlphaTauri in P7 and is going to move up a couple of places in the standings as well. At least I believe so. So well done by him. Now, as I already mentioned, next week we'll be staying here in the States. We'll be moving from the Nevada desert out to Texas, so only a few states away, although that is still quite the journey to take when we go to Austin, to the Circuit of the Americas, arguably one of the more beautiful tracks that exist out there in the States. Of course, there are a lot of beautiful non-F1 tracks out in the States that we don't get to enjoy, such as Long Beach, where we drove in the past, Indianapolis, where we drove down the pass, and my all-time favorite, which just slipped my mind. That's wonderful. Dang it, how Laguna Seca, there we go. Name slipped my mind. With a wonderful corkscrew. It's just a shame that the F1 cars really can't wonderfully go around there, because it is a treat to watch. If you ever watched IMSA, seeing the cars go around there, that is really, really cool. Unfortunately for F1, not there, but next week with the Coda track that we have, I think I can most definitely agree with Koji that it is one of the most appealing tracks out there. And that action we're going to see next week at 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central European Time, so CET time for you and for me, as we're going to be back with WR Tier 4 next week for round 5. Still 7 rounds to go in this championship with our new leader, Luke Wallstone. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Good night.